Welcome to Volume 4 of the Chinese Wushu Training Series. The broadsword is demonstrated by two members of the Beijing Wushu team, Li Zhizhou, and the women's all-around Wushu champion of China, Hao Zihua. The block, overhead, and chop is the most often used combination of the broadsword. When the broadsword is in the back, it must be close enough to the body to touch the shoulder. The next basic broadsword movement is the cut. The horizontal chop. The vertical chop. The thrust. The figure eight, which is an action by the wrist. The uppercut. First, the uppercut on the right side of the body. And the uppercut on the left side. Now the right and left uppercut. The push. Make sure that the broadsword is pushed back instead of pushed up. The hang. The jump inside crescent kick. First, the broadsword goes through a block, overhead, and chop. Then the right leg jumps and an inside crescent kick in the air. Now the jump inside crescent kick into a split. The feet must land at the same time, then slide into the split. The butterfly kick. Again, first a block, overhead, and chop combination. When the body is in the air, the broadsword sweeps past underneath before the right leg drops. The butterfly with a full twist. The approach could be exactly the same as in the regular butterfly, or as shown here with the broadsword first held in the left hand. Then it is transferred back to the right hand during the twist in mid-air. And the butterfly with a full twist into a split. And now the broadsword routine demonstrated by Li Zhizhou. The routine is broken down into 4 sections. Let's look at the first one in slow motion. A front slap kick. A body turn and hit the floor. And into a bow stance. Another front slap kick. And he gets ready for the first aerial combination. First, a jump front kick. Landing on the right foot. And into the butterfly with a full twist and a split. The second section. First, the overhead combination. Then a body spin, a thrust, the reverse figure 8, another overhead combination, the forward figure 8, a thrust, and another overhead combination. A thrust in bow stance, the overhead combination again, another thrust, the uppercut, a thrust, a chop, the figure 8, another thrust, and into the jump inside crescent kick into a split. The third section. The overhead combination. The uppercut and a thrust. A body turn. The figure 8. A thrust. And into the push. Another overhead combination. And a cut. Again, the overhead combination. a figure 8, a thrust, and into an empty stance. The block, overhead, and chop combination again. A horizontal chop. A thrust. The reverse figure 8. A chop. The overhead combination. And another couple of chops. The fourth section. The overhead combination. And a horizontal chop. Another overhead combination as the body turns to the left. A thrust. And next comes the butterfly kick. A thrust. And another overhead combination. A block, overhead, and low chop. And into an empty stance. And that's the end of the routine. The second routine is demonstrated by the women's all-around wushu champion of China, Hao Zihua. Let's look at the first section in slow motion. A front slap kick. Coming up is the jump front kick. She lands on her right foot. The body turns left and into the butterfly with a full twist. Her feet land at the same time and slide out into the split. The second section. A horizontal chop. An uppercut. A thrust. An empty stance. An over-the-head combination. Another uppercut. Her right leg jumps off as she does a horizontal chop in the air and into an empty stance. A thrust. Another thrust with a front snap kick. An uppercut. The reverse figure eight. A thrust. The figure eight. Another thrust. And the jump inside crescent kick into a split. The third section. The figure eight. A thrust. Then the overhead combination with a body turn. A thrust. A low horizontal chop. Then a horizontal chop in the air, the overhead combination, and a cut. She pulls the sword close to her upper body. The figure eight, and a thrust. The uppercut. A chop. Another chop. The figure eight with a body turn. A chop as she skips on her left leg. A thrust. The overhead combination. The figure eight. A thrust. And another figure eight. The fourth section. A horizontal chop. And the butterfly kick. The overhead combination. A spin to the left with the tip of the sword pointing down. A figure eight. A thrust. An overhead combination with a low chop. And that concludes her routine. Volume 1, Wushu Basic Techniques, contains fundamental training for contemporary Wushu. Basic maneuvers such as strikes, stances, footwork, and complicated aerial kicks and combinations are covered. This is the most essential volume for martial artists of all levels. Tangquan, the empty hand routine that is tailored to the individual practitioner. Tangquan is the backbone to all other styles of Wushu training. 3 examples are illustrated here, including one given by an 11-year-old athlete. The straight sword was the favorite weapon among the noble class throughout the history of China. The beauty of its fluid movements matches the fantasy of a phoenix flying aloft. The broadsword, characterized by quick, vicious, and powerful movements, is perhaps the most popular weapon. Various basic techniques of the broadsword and 2 routines are demonstrated in this program. All basic swings and spins of the cudgel are demonstrated clearly here. as well as complex body maneuvers done in conjunction with cudgel techniques. Lan, Na, Jia are the prerequisites to all other spear moves. The power is focused at the tip, and it is utmost important to have good coordination between the practitioner's body and the spear itself. The spear is often regarded as the king of all weapons. The swings and turns of the three-section cudgel must be done with great speed. The techniques are reproduced here in slow motion to help the viewers learn this complicated flexible weapon. The 9-section whip mainly consists of coiling and wrapping motions. The various elbow, leg, and neck wraps, as well as other techniques, are clearly demonstrated. The rope dart is perhaps the most difficult weapon to learn, and instructional material for it is equally as hard to find. This program will guide you through this unique weapon step by step. The drunken style must be the most talked about form in the tournament circuit today. Self-defense techniques are hidden within the seemingly drunken motions. Dodges, side steps, and counter-attacks are revealed only to the trained eye. Chinese martial art techniques are often borrowed from the instinctive self-defense abilities of other creatures. The praying mantis style is highlighted by the practitioner's hands, which mimic the devastating pinches of the mantis. The monkey-style cudgel combines the cunningness of the agile monkey with cudgel techniques. Among the different styles of Taiji Quan, Yang style is the most popular. Its continuous and relatively large movements are retained in this 88-step routine, standardized by the State Sports Commission of China. Taiji training also involves its related weaponry. Now the Yang-style Taiji sword is made available for enthusiasts. Xing Yi Quan is another internal wushu style. All 5 basic punches, 12 animal postures, and an entire routine are demonstrated in this program. Taiji, Xing Yi, and Bagua are the 3 main internal styles. This program takes you through the 8 fundamental palms of Bagua to a complex routine of very swift footwork and torso maneuvers.